We are All Souls Unitarian Universalist congregation. I'm the Reverend Ron Ferris. My pronouns are he, him. Welcome this morning. We're joined by, I say welcome this morning, all I can think about is Arran, like right behind my tush. You good? Okay, thanks. Just had to get that out of the way. Or get this out of the way, I don't know. So we're joined by our folks on Zoom this morning. If you want to say hi, turn around, give them a wave, welcoming wave. And we are all here on purpose, right? We're all here on purpose. Whether you are Zooming in or whether you are sitting in this room today, we are here for a purpose. The strange thing is sometimes we don't remember what that purpose is. So I'd like you to take a moment, to take a breath, to connect with the reason why you are here this morning. It may take more than a breath to call it to mind. Recall or create right now your intention for being here this Memorial Weekend Sunday. Connect with that intention, and assign to it a gesture so that you could remember it later. Put that intention in your body. It could be a tap of your heart, snap, pulling on your earlobe, whatever it is. Some physical embodiment of the reason why you are here today that you can take with you throughout the week. We are called to our practice today with these words, inspired and adapted from the Reverend Barbara Pescan in honor of Memorial Day. Remember now all those whose lives have been taken by wars they did not start. Honor those who felt a call to serve something greater, a call to protect and to free. Honor here poets and mourners who carry in their hearts an absence that pulses, an ache that once felt never truly goes away. Sing out with gratitude and with grief for life, longing for a better way. Plant trees, strong and tall. Let the branches breathe even to graves far from home. Feel the earth holding us, bearing witness to stories too hard to speak, memories held in bodies, while ancestors whisper, no more, never again, remember me. In this place, we honor all of the wounds and the scars, spirits broken and seeking wholeness. Let this be a house of reunion, calling all of our pieces home. In us, veterans in a forest of 1,000 fallen promises, let new leaves of protest grow on our stumps. Stir up a new courage to listen and not turn away. And with our bare hands and our full hearts, with all our intelligence, let us create together a lasting peace. Let us practice together.
So I spent 4 years in Air Force ROTC, and then 4 years active duty in our Air Force. I consider myself a patriot, and I like to fly the American flag. But last summer, it was time for the Pride Parade, and I thought it might be fun and maybe just a little provocative if I took my rainbow flag and got a little flagpole and affixed it in the back of my pickup truck and drove, to the parade. It wasn't going to be in the parade. That was just, I thought that would be fun. At the very first stoplight that I got to when I left my house, I was stopped. And there was a gentleman about my age, my same general demographic, driving his pickup truck. And he made very intent and intentional eye contact with me, extended his hand, and greeted me with his middle finger. Obviously, that wasn't a huge surprise. He wasn't flying any flags in his pickup truck, but I assumed, and I still assume, that at some point he's flown different flags behind his pickup truck. But even before then, and especially since then, it's bothered me how much the word patriot and the iconography, especially our American flag, have become associated with a very specific, pretty authoritarian and exclusionary bent. So, when I think about Memorial Day, and I think about the Pride Parade coming up, I've decided this year I'm gonna have 2 flags on the back of my pickup truck, a rainbow flag and the American flag. And because really, right? Yeah. I can point to either of those flags and say, with all the truth in my heart, that flag stands for life and liberty, the pursuit of happiness. That flag, our American flag, rainbow flag, those flags both stand for the right to exist as we are. And that's it for my service leader part. Okay, shifting gears a little bit. We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sharing. We give with the faith that together we have enough. And we're going to show our giving options on the screens. And so you can give via text on your phone, online, or write a check, all that kind of good stuff. And our ushers will be coming around with baskets as well. And ultimately, this congregation will receive these offerings with deep gratitude and the commitment to spend them in our efforts to do some good in this world.
Poet John McCrae once wrote, "In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields." Not sure what faith McCrae wants from me. I am sure that the war dead do not want more company. The best way to honor the death of untold numbers of warriors is by making no more of them. The memory of their bravery and sacrifice will galvanize me to make no more such memories. They were invited into hell, and some went with enthusiasm, and all were asked to do things that seem impossible. But from their memory, let us fashion a new invitation. An invitation to fields of green whose honor is in their pristineness rather than their crosses. This invitation is no less daunting than those we honor this week accepted. For this invitation will ask of us to do what seems impossible, to decolonize our minds of the contagion of war. There's a proud tradition in the United States, though not only the United States, of putting one's life on the line in the name of national interests. It can be admirable. Can we recall with awe the bravery it summons while also condemning the costs? For while the impulse is admirable, it is also tragic. And not just for the lives lost, but for the follies of history that called for their sacrifice in the first place, like some blundering, insatiable demon conjured by the dreams of greedy, prideful, traumatized men. It's admirable and tragic, blundering and demonic, and inevitable. In fact, unceasing, present. For before war is a memorial, before war is a body bag, before war is an assault, before war is a propaganda manufactured enthusiasm, before war is a failure of politics, before all of that, war is a mindset. War is a way of looking at the world and oneself in the world. War is our mindset. And war is an inevitable outcome of a worldview in thrall to the sense of separation that we've been so saturated with. This mindset of separateness is costing us even now. And it is costing us everything. Our sense that we are disconnected from one another, from being of the world, and all the beings that together are the world. Our sense of disconnection from them, which be it the person next to you, a cricket or a forest, being separated, sensing yourself separate from those will necessarily produce war on forests, on crickets, and on each other. To my mind, the perception of separation and its outcome of war are so closely linked that they may be one and the same. And if that is true, then we are in a constant state of war. The sense that we are separate beings in a world of separate beings gives rise to the impulse to grab what one can in order to protect oneself from a sociopathic universe. But no matter how much you grab, no matter how much money is in your bank or how many likes are on your Insta or lands in your empire, it will never be enough because the underlying sense of separation has not been addressed, resolved, or ameliorated. Thus, we are in a state of constant war, a perceptual posture of never-ending conquest or defense, a linguistic addiction to metaphors of violence, a spiritual state that begs for enemies. And while this ultimately manifests in weapons and tactics, worshiping violence, or being seized by violence in a more personal relationship, it is more fundamentally rooted than politics or even passion. The contemporary philosopher Charles Eisenstein points out that the sense of separation gives rise to a subtle and constant panic that has us warring on everything from drugs to poverty, from communism to weeds, to fat, to aging, to climate change. Eisenstein notes that the mindset of separation is isolating by its nature, and that the sense of isolation is the seedbed of depression. Worse, separation mindset often results in a sense of disconnect from not only others, but even from your own self. Disconnection yields a war on the self, not the big, bad, ego bully self either, but the delicate self that we call a heart. In war, propaganda is used to dehumanize and demonize the enemy. We do the same thing with ourselves sometimes, don't we? We look upon our bodies, our eyes, our abilities and responsibilities as enemy. We are at war with ourselves, and there are casualties. We are also waging a war on that larger self that we call Earth. Just like in a shooting war, the sense of separation demands all resources be mustered to fill its insatiable hunger and purpose. Everything becomes a thing to be used rather than a being with whom to cultivate a relationship. A forest is a table waiting to happen, a buck waiting to be made, rather than a being itself full of beings that gives of itself so that we may have shelter and warmth and food. The demonization and dehumanization of the enemy is little different from the desacralization of nature on which ecocide depends. But then to combat that result, environmentalists wage war on climate change, and pharmacists and therapists wage war on depression, and on and on. War is a mindset. It's rooted in a mindset, a trauma response to separation. No matter what it is applied to, be it Gaza or autism, it will always leave a vacuum, this mindset. War. And as a vacuum is an echo of the sense of separation, war will only create the need for more war to fill that vacuum. There is a solution, though it will ask of us what seems impossible. It will ask of us to change our minds. The very sense of how and who we are. It's not your fault that we have this sense of separation that becomes war mentality. It's something that we have been taught for a very long time, something we have learned, and something that maybe we have passed on. But we can choose to learn a different way. We are being invited, rather insistently, and we ignore the invitation at our peril. We are being invited to imagine something new. or reimagine something ancient, something fundamental, to rebuild our sense of what a self is, and thus to find ourselves in an entirely different world, a more accurate hologram, a more loving one, anyway. So I have a little aphorism I like to call the carbon rule. Carbon rather than golden or platinum or some other lusty extraction from our mother. Carbon because that's the basic building block of life as we know it. The carbon rule is also not a piece of advice. It's not do unto others as you would. It's not a piece of advice. It's a simple observation of a fundamental truth. And the carbon rule is this: as you do unto others, so you do unto yourself. As you do unto others, so you do unto yourself. How you treat others is how you treat you. This is the truth of an interdependent web of being, a web of being in which I am of thee and you are of me. Not that we are the same being, I am not thee, but I am of thee, and you are of me. Unique parts and iterations of one being, not the same being, but indwelling as part of one another. I am of thee, you are of me. What you do to others, you do to you. As a mindset, it takes practice. It's not easy to change your mind. It takes saying, I am of thee, you are of me, so often that when you aren't doing it, you're hearing it. It takes saying it so often that while it becomes a default invitation to your every moment. It takes saying so often that you aren't thinking it, it's thinking you. I am of thee, you are of me, to the person next to you, to the air between you, to our whole species, to every species, to each individual of every species, to the trees that give us the air between us, to one tree, to the light and earth and water of which we are all made, to the war dead, I am of thee, you are of me. Like it says in the poem that I read to open with, we are the dead. It says, in an imaginative point of view, but as such, written by a living person and read by a living person, it's a little spiritual trip. We are the dead. We are at least of them, and they of us. Which means Memorial Day is not about some other. It's about us. It is about what we do with what they have done. It is about remembering who we are and what our responsibilities are to each other, to history, to our ancestors and progeny, to our world. Let this then be our faith with the dead, that we will seek no nemesis, that we will not reduce complexity to enemy, that we will work toward a ceasefire in Gaza and an end to colonialism everywhere, that we will work to shift our self-conception to one that is less enthralled to the demon of war, that we will prevent all wars by realizing that we are part of an interconnected whole. And that by this, not by war, is how we save ourselves, our families, the land, the world. The sacrifices made by men and women have been too precious to waste on adulations. The vacuum left by their absences carry through generations, and they leave us high and dry, a persistent emptiness that begs for us to find a new way. But their courage to meet an impossible battlefield request may yet serve to inspire us. Let their loss not be in vain. Let it be for more than the war that took them. Let it be to give us the courage to change our hearts, to change our minds, and to understand that I am of thee. Thee, fallen soldier, the earth that reclaims your bones, the family left still breathing, thee who fired the round. I am of thee, and you are of me. Please rise for the benediction. As we leave this sacred time and place that we have constructed together, that we have co-created with one another, let us do so knowing that the way not to be left high and dry is to recognize that we are of one another. That as we do unto others, whatever the other is, so we do unto ourselves. Let us go in peace. Let us go singing.